A very good evening and welcome. This is Weekend Primetime News here on Shakti TV and MTV. I'm Ramesh Irugal Bandar. As always, let's start off with a look at your headlines tonight.
Ministry of Health steps in to minimize the use of sugar consumption in the country. More than 120 dead as Paris hit by series of attacks. IS claims responsibility for the attacks. Voucher to be introduced from next year as a replacement to providing school uniforms.
විදිහට මාෆියාවක් මේක නිර්මාණය වෙලා තිබෙනවා.
සම්පූර්ණයෙන්ම කළුකඩ නිර්මාණය වීමක් වෙන්නේ.
දෙරෙද්දක් නැතු වෙන එක තමයි වෙන්නේ ඉතින් අන්තිමේට.
Why should political prisoners languish in prisons while KP and Karuna are in the open? A question from Minister DM Swaminathan.
On to the stories in detail now. A government program to reduce the sugar intake of Sri Lankans aimed at preventing diabetes was launched today.
The circular by the Ministry of Health aimed at minimizing use of sugar was unveiled today following a walk that organized to mark the World Diabetes Day 2015. The walk got underway under the auspices of President Maithripala Sirisena. The circular was unveiled at the Mihilaka Madura Hall at the BMICH, and it notes that sugar should be provided separately at meetings, workshops and events held at state institutions. In addition, a phrase on reducing sugar consumption would be printed on the sugar containers and sugar jars. The government also aimed to reduce the sale of food items which has high percentage of salt, sugar and oil at the cafeterias of schools.
We are facing a challenge today. Developed countries like America, Japan and England along with the entire human race are facing this challenge. To what extent does technology affect the development of health and health security of the human race? If you take the time the children spend outside of school, they are most of the time connected with the technology. No matter what people say, the challenge is embracing technology in an unnecessary manner is a serious issue.
අනිසි විදිහට වැළඳ ගැනීම පිළිබඳව ප්‍රශ්නය.
දැන් අපිට මේ සෞඛ්‍ය අමාත්‍යාංශයට සහ අපේ රජයට තිබෙන මූලික
Non-communicable diseases are a major health challenge that the government and the Ministry of Health have to face. We need to declare 2016 as the year for the prevention of non-communicable diseases. The current health records prove it difficult for us to move towards the economic goals.
එනිසා අද මේ තියෙන සෞඛ්‍ය දත්තයන් සමග අපිට බොහොම අමාරුයි අපේ ආර්ථික දත්තයන්.
On to a tragic story that made world headlines today. The Islamic State claimed responsibility for the catastrophic attacks in the French capital Paris, calling them the first of the storm, according to statements released in multiple languages on one of the terror group's encrypted messaging accounts. President Francois Hollande has categorically declared that the Islamic State group is to blame for terror attacks across Paris that have left over 100 persons dead.
Now, as you know, Paris is home to many Sri Lankans. We contacted the Sri Lankan ambassador in France to ascertain as to whether any Sri Lankans were injured in the incidents.
The explosion took place at around 10 last evening. We inquired from leaders and temples in the area if any Sri Lankans have been injured in the bombings. However, no such reports have been received by us. The president too has sent his condolence to us, and we are making all arrangements to hand over the letter to the French president. We have set up a special office and provided them with a special hotline. Via this, Sri Lankans would be able to receive any information on the situation.
On to our developing story tonight. It was reported that 5 inmates who were engaged in a fast at the Valikata prison have been admitted to the National Hospital. Minister of Prison Reforms, DM Swaminathan, confirmed that they have been subject to medical examinations. The fast that was launched by inmates across 6 prisons in the island entered its 7th day today. The fast is underway at the Anuradhapura, Valikada, Bogambara, Dumbara and Batiklo prisons.
A fast took place in Sidambarampuram in Vaunia today, urging the government for the immediate release of these political prisoners.
We started releasing these prisoners. We cannot release all of them due to legal issues. We released 31 individuals as the first phase. The president is aware of the situation. The president too is of the stance that political prisoners should be released. But the legal framework needs to be prepared. If people like KP and Karuna are in the open, why can't these prisoners be free? This needs to be done according to the law.
From those who were granted bail, 25 individuals have left the prisons after signing their bail applications. There are around 6 more who have not signed their bail applications. 4 of them have other cases, so they will not leave. There are 2 more who have already signed their bail application and are waiting to leave. We believe that their guarantors will arrive by Monday and sign the bail conditions and that they will be released.
The first lot of political prisoners were bailed out, but there were no people to sign their bails and give them out. That is not our duty. The government had done the duty. The people who called for hartals could have gone to Colombo, signed the bail applications and got them out. There are a lot of people who shout, but when it comes to implementation, not much of interest. So anyway, we have started. We will release another lot. And these are not political prisoners. These are accused of certain, accused on different charges.
Tilak Marapana's resignation as Minister of Law and Order and Prison Reforms was discussed during the Face the Nation program last evening.
Well, the resignation of Honorable Tilak Marapana from his post, the ministerial post, I don't think that is going to solve any problem. That will solve his problem of being criticized by the parliamentarians, by the people, by the critics in the country, those who are interested about these corruption issues and various things.
I think it in a different way, and Minister Tilak Marapana didn't have any other choice but to resign after everyone was criticizing his words made in the parliament, his speech, and the inside story is so crucial and critical. The protest against him was so huge by the civil society, which basically made the foundation for the good governance this government. The discussion on avant-garde and basically on the good governance aspect, the corruption and how the deals are made in this government has now become a public debate.
In more local news tonight, a relative of former President Mahinda Rajapaksa was summoned before the Police Financial Crimes Investigation Division today.
Chandra Tudor Rajapaksa was summoned to the FCID to be interrogated over an appointment he had made.
Speaking during the Face the Nation program last evening, Cornel Pereira, a businessman and entrepreneur, commented on the expropriation bill that was brought by the previous government.
There is indication given in the Prime Minister's policy speech, I haven't read the whole thing, parts, where they talked about expropriation. Not only that, they've gone one step further and says no private sector establishment will be taken over, local or foreign. If this does not happen, then FDIs won't come. And there are some changes that must be made in the land law too. I think there's indications given about all this by the Prime Minister, and I know his policy speech very clearly states, and we were given the impression the expropriation bill will be killed and buried. I personally was asking for that. That's what I was working for. And by the way, this hotel chain, they are only the managers. The Hilton Hotel ownership was its Hotel Developers Lanka Limited, a company of which I still am the legal owner.
Sri Lanka was elected to the Executive Board of the United Nations Educational, Scientific and Cultural Organization, or UNESCO, during the 38th General Conference in Paris.
The Ministry of Foreign Affairs says that this is the first election to a UN specialized agency that Sri Lanka contested for. According to the ministry, Sri Lanka was one of the 6 countries that qualified to serve on the executive board from the Asia and Pacific Group for the period 2015 to 2019, having received 149 out of 186 votes at the election, in which there were 8 candidate countries. The countries which were elected to the executive board from the Asia and Pacific Group, with Sri Lanka are Malaysia, Vietnam, Republic of Korea, Pakistan and Iran. The minister says that the decision to pursue membership in the UNESCO Executive Board was a manifestation of the government's policy of renewing engagement with the international community and reaffirmation of the principles of the government. Sri Lanka has served on the executive board thrice previously, from 1968 to 1974, 1987 to 1991 and from 2003 to 2011.
The Ministry of Education is preparing to introduce vouchers to students as a replacement for providing school uniforms.
Free school uniforms are provided to students studying at government and government-funded schools since the year 1993. 4.3 million students are benefited through this program annually. 2.3 billion rupees was allocated to provide school uniforms last year.
1.3 billion rupees reached the students. 1 billion was given to the middlemen or the businessmen. They use it for commissions. There is a mafia in operation.
Therefore, citing these reasons, the Ministry of Education had decided to provide vouchers to the parents of school students from next year without providing the school uniform. Teachers' unions have expressed their displeasure over this move.
We see this as an arbitrary decision and as one that has been made to hide one's failure. They may have a long-term plan to completely stop providing uniform material to the students.
The
money that is provided will suffice in purchasing the material and sewing the uniform. Money will be saved. Therefore, the government funds will reach the students directly. The vouchers will pave way for the creation of a black market. A voucher can be used to purchase any other material. Will anyone monitor that purchasing? Material can be purchased for a value lesser than what is in the voucher. A progress report is also in the pipeline, where a marking process will take place on an assigned date when students arrive in schools with new uniforms. The same date is allocated for wearing the uniforms and presenting of vouchers. What sort of joke is this? Under whose directives are these being done? At least present the uniforms before the 1st of January. This will only give cause to a crisis in the education sector.
Parents expressed their views to Newsfirst on this matter.
The only fear we have is whether these vouchers and the uniforms will be provided on time.
The free uniform program was not a success. Through these vouchers, we can at least provide our children with a proper uniform by adding more money to the purchase. If vouchers are provided, it is uncertain what the parents would do with the money. We would purchase material from a good place if vouchers are provided.
The government could provide a voucher for the value of material.
It is good to provide vouchers. It will help the poor children in villages. There are both bad and good effects of a voucher.
There could be a possibility of people purchasing different quality material. It will be better if all the children are wearing the same uniform.
After some time, the voucher will disappear.
What would happen is that the material provided will also disappear.
And it's time now for more local news in brief.
The Colombo Crimes Division arrested a suspect for the possession of a firearm and heroin in the Blue Mandal area.
An individual known as Blue Mandal Pathum was arrested for possessing a 3.8 revolver which is manufactured overseas and 15 bullets. 10.240 grams of heroin has also been discovered in his possession. The suspect is in custody of the Kotahena police. Further investigations are underway.
Now heavy rains continue to batter many areas of the country.
Disaster Management Centre says that around 300 families in the Puttalam district have been affected by heavy showers. The Palak Kulama tank in Munneswaram, Chilao is at the brink of breaking its banks. The Chilao General Hospital was inundated by floods, compelling authorities to transfer patients to other hospitals. Rough seas were reported from the Maravila coast last evening. Villages in Madampe, Arachikattua and Mundalama are affected by the floods in Chilao. 6 spill gates of the tub-over tank in Putlam have been opened as a result of the heavy rains, and the district irrigation office has warned the locals in low-lying areas to be cautious. Spill gates of the Konduwatuana tank in Ampara have been opened. As the water that is released enters the ECC river in Ampara and flows to the Suduella village, several houses are at the risk of being washed away.
අපේගේ විතරනේ මේ මුළුගේ පාරට එනකම්ම යනවා කැඩි කැඩි. ඉතින් එක ගෙයක් ගියා.
Transportation on the Narammara Hettipola road was hampered in the Udugampala Gedara area as the Kulumbulu Oya broke its banks. Transportation opposite the Mahamaya Girls School in Kandy was hampered following collapse of an earth embankment this morning. Floods were reported in several areas from the Kilinochchi district. Deputy Director of the Kilinochchi District Disaster Management Centre K. Sukunadas said that over 60 families from Shantipuram and Ponnagar areas have been displaced. Gale winds that swept across the area damaged over 50 houses and destroyed another 18. Relief programs have been undertaken to assist those who have been displaced. Water levels of all reservoirs in the Kilinochchi district have risen and spill gates of the Iranamadu reservoir were opened. A crocodile had attacked a 14-year-old boy who was sleeping in a house that was inundated around 2 this morning. The child was rescued from the jaws of the crocodile and was admitted to the Kilinochchi hospital. The child was later transferred to the Jaffna hospital for further treatment and was moved to the intensive care unit. Reports have come in citing that an individual was reported missing after he was washed away by strong currents. Over 5,600 individuals in the Jaffna district have been affected by the inclement weather. Bad weather destroyed 254 houses in the district. Jaffna District Secretary Nagalingam Veganayagam said that relief programs are underway to assist the affected.
The body of a woman who is believed to have been murdered in Kuwait and brought to the country will be subject to a post-mortem examination today.
The 50-year-old woman, a mother of 2 and a resident of Anuradhapura, is believed to have been murdered in Kuwait. The deceased woman had flown overseas for employment 3 years ago. The post-mortem examination took place at the Negombo General Hospital.
She suffered blunt force trauma to the head and chest. She had been bound. Her neck and face were stabbed. She was injured severely and murdered.
The remains were handed over to the relatives this afternoon.
We cannot be certain. Some say that a kidney was requested. We cannot be certain. A person who was there told us that this would have happened as she refused to give the kidney.
When we inquired about the murder from the Minister of Foreign Employment, Talata Atukorala, she said that the body was brought to the country with the intervention of the ministry and added that further investigations will take place in close coordination with the Embassy of the State of Kuwait in Sri Lanka.
Well, small-scale businessmen are expressing much displeasure, citing the fact that the Ahangama trade complex has not been rebuilt even though it has been a year since it was demolished.
The Deputy Speaker at the time, Chandima Veerakkudi, laid the foundation stone for the project on the 18th of November 2014. The businessmen accused politicians in power of hindering the construction of the trade complex. Party affiliations do not matter to us. What we want is for the immediate construction of this complex and give us a proper shop space. About 10 businessmen who used to work here before this was demolished have stopped their businesses. Our lives are at virtual standstill. We have bank loans and we have to make our daily payments. We can't make these payments. At a time when we received the required money and while the project was underway, they kept on procrastinating this. When we faced problems last April, these businessmen didn't have a place to engage in their trading activities. There are a number of political influences over this issue. When the minister spoke with the president and obtained his patronage for the project, some forces are trying to stop this. This trade complex is the heart of the Ahangama town. Minister Chandima Veerakkudi from this electorate is attempting to give life to this place through the construction. This needs to be done soon. The construction work has been stalled by the arbitrary actions of the officials.
In a day and age of easy information access, do physical libraries still have a function to fulfill? That is a question that the NILIS, or the National Institute of Library and Information Science, of the University of Colombo takes very seriously. At a NILIS conference attended by academics, information scientists and librarians, Dr. Sudarshini Fernandopoulos, the State Minister of City Planning and Water Supply, laid out some of the challenges of the modern information age.
The World Wide Web is the first port of call by the new generation to access information. The information explosion has resulted in information overload and information anxiety. The general public is unable to come to conclusions or make decisions due to this unlimited sea of information. Without information literacy, critical and creative thinking skills, the youth as well as the adults will be at a significant disadvantage in the universities and in the workplaces as well as in today's society. As a responsible government, we are committed to narrow down the digital divide among the school children and the community.
And that's a wrap of Weekend Primetime News for tonight. For the Newsfirst team, I'm Ramesh Irugal Bandara. Good night.